Zombies.
Zombies, guys. I got him. This is my microphone. This is an airsoft gun, by the way. So, you guys like VR, huh?
Yeah.
And popular topics, I guess.
Yeah.
So, what's popular right now? The Last of Us. I've never played that before. Maybe I could for...
Oh my gosh, that's really cold.
My plan is to find the top VR zombie games, and there are a lot of them, and then look for the ones that made me feel like daddy. Joel from The Last of Us, Pavlov Zombies, Propagation VR, Saints and Sinners, Arizona Sunshine, and Half-Life Alyx. These are the games I chose first, and if you think I missed some, let me know in the comments. Maybe I'll do a part 2. I have a few different categories that I'll be running these games through: gameplay, enemies, writing, set pieces, and world building. All the pillars that make The Last of Us a gaming legend. And for each game, I'll rate each of these categories on a scale of 1 to 10, and then add them up for the final score to see how close these games are to The Last of Us. This way we can truly find the game that will get us inside Joel's head. I'm dressed like him right now. So, let's get right to the games. Pavlov Zombies is very fun if you have friends. It is mind-numbingly simple, but it's very enjoyable if you're not playing alone. Although, it's first on the list for a reason. I honestly thought there would be a few more things that would make it similar to The Last of Us, but there is no story,
No dick, no balls.
only one type of zombie, and the maps are teeny. Don't get me wrong, the game is very, very fun, but after analyzing it, I gave it a 5 for gameplay. It has zombies and guns, which is the basics of The Last of Us, but that's all the game is. No stealth, no fighting, no other survivors, which is normally fine, but I want to hide from a hideous mass as a very handsome man. I gave the enemy category a 2 since there are zombies, but it's just that one type of zombie. Me and the friend I played with went through round after round and we never saw a different type of zombie, so a 2 for reaching the bare minimum, I guess, which I sadly can't say for the writing as there is none.
No dick, no balls.
None, which again is fine, but Last of Us, so a 0 for writing. I gave a 3 for set pieces because the maps I played were cool even when they were dead, and when the zombies are in a large group it can be pretty compelling. But again, that's it. I gave a 0 for world building since there is none as well. Adding all this up, 10. That's only 20% of The Last of Us in VR. Unacceptable. Now, let's move on and see if The Last of Us will propagate in the next game. Screw this game. I know I'm supposed to be analyzing it to see if it's anything like The Last of Us VR, but this game. It's an amazing and well done wish it were longer experience, but it made me want to fill my pants more than once. This game unironically frightened me multiple times. My timbers were shivering, which you could argue that The Last of Us is horror. I wouldn't, but it definitely uses horror elements. But even though it has that going for it, I gave it a 3 for gameplay. It has the shooting and the zombies and the shooting of the zombies, but that's it. You get a shotgun and a pistol and then they send you on your way. In a metaphorical sense, of course, because you are permanently anchored to this one spot for the whole 30-minute experience. I actually like this gameplay style a lot, but this is not Last of Us material. I then gave it a 5 for enemies since there are a variety of different enemy types, but no people. Let me shoot people. I'm just kidding. A 3 for writing because honestly, the writing that is there is perfectly fine, but it's a very, very short game, so I didn't really get attached to anything. For set pieces, I actually gave it a 7. For such a small experience, a lot of things are going on, especially when they introduce new zombie enemies. And a 4 for world building. Some soldiers briefly give some exposition, but that is pretty much all we get, which is perfect for the needs of this experience, but I'm picky, and I want The Last of Us in virtual reality. Doing the math here gives us a 22 or 44% of The Last of Us. Better than Pavlov Shack, but we can do better than just shooting down waves of The Walking Dead. Regardless of the rating I may give this game, it's one of the best VR games ever made. So to start, I can confidently say that the gameplay is a 9. Saints and Sinners has everything: ranged combat, melee combat, stealth, zombies, humans. Gameplay-wise, it's incredibly similar to The Last of Us. The only thing that keeps it from being a 10 is that it is a complete open world, not linear open world like The Last of Us. I gave it a 7 for enemies because it's got zombie and human enemies, but there's only one kind of zombie, so co plus C plus ratio plus etc. I did have to give it a 4 for writing though. You spend most of the game alone, and the writing that is there is pretty standard, plus I can't remember any of the characters' names. I gave it a 5 for set pieces. The maps are cool and individualistic, but very rarely are there any engaging moving pieces. I finally gave it a 5 for world building. Like I mentioned before, the story itself isn't interesting, and even though the world is interesting, the world it's in is already established lore from the show, so they never bother exploring it in the game. This is fine for their needs, but not mine. I mean, ours. So pretending to do the math, the game is a 30 or 60% of The Last of Us. Don't get me wrong, the gameplay aspect is near perfect, but The Last of Us stands out for more than just gameplay. So we could just settle here, or we could migrate. Maybe move out of state. Maybe to Arizona. Arizona Sunshine is one of the pioneers of VR, as it was one of the first major releases for VR users to enjoy, releasing back in 2016. It's a fun zombie shoot-'em-up with satisfying combat and compelling progression, and that's why I'm giving it a 7 for gameplay. It's a linear open world with some rewarding exploration and has you shooting zombies all along the way. Now that I'm done saying the good things about it, I gave it a 4 for enemies, since it's just all normal zombies with a tiny bit of variation as you progress, and no human enemies. And the writing.
Oh man, never thought I'd miss my alarm clock. Morning there, ugly. Oh, shoot. Damn, Freddy. Hey, good, didn't I? Ah, there you guys are. I was starting to get a little lonely. You know the rules are, don't get too close. Hey, don't get too close. Guys, what did I just say?
I gave the game a 2 for writing. It does have a story, don't get me wrong, but this game has the most obnoxious character dialogue. I don't think there's anything wrong with having a game that's campy and cheesy on purpose, but nothing this guy says is funny or interesting or important besides the basic dialogue stuff. Okay, with that out of the way, I gave it a 5 for set pieces, since every once in a while there are some cool things that go on in the world, but most of the time it's just zombies, and I gave it a 5 for world building. The story is serviceable at best. The exposition provided gets you where you need to be. Arizona Sunshine is a decent overall game. It's a bit aged in the realm of constantly changing VR games, but it's far from the virtual reality Last of Us that I'm seeking, as it only gets a 23 or a 46%. Man, honestly, I thought most of what I found would be around 50%, but I never realized how basic most VR zombie gaming experiences were. Which is fine, but after half a decade of VR gaming becoming mainstream, you'd think we'd have more action-adventure titles with zombies in them. My life is way too comfortable. But I have one last trick up my sleeve, a trump card. A blue white dragon, or whatever it's called. Half-Life Alyx. You probably saw this coming since I said it earlier. Half-Life Alyx may be the best VR game to have come out ever. I know that's debatable, but come on, the game is beautiful, it has amazing progression, combat, and a great story. I'm gonna just go through this part quickly since I feel the results here will be obvious. I gave gameplay an 8, I would have done a 9 or a 10, but only one stealth section. Jeff. And there is no melee combat. Both of those make up a hefty amount of The Last of Us's gameplay, but everything else gameplay-wise is perfect. I gave it a 10 for enemies. Just like The Last of Us, there are plenty of different types of zombies and humanoid enemies, and you're given plenty of weapons to dispatch them with. I gave it an 8 for writing because the story isn't perfect and it requires multiple games worth of lore to completely understand. Then a solid 10 for set pieces. Just the opening chapter alone has several intricate set pieces that truly utilize the VR medium to the max. And the world building is a 9. Even with multiple other games worth of lore, new players can waltz right into this game and gather everything they need to know from all the context clues and clever exposition. The game has a pretty great story, phenomenal gameplay, and gorgeous visuals. Doing the math here, Half-Life Alyx is a 45 or 90% of The Last of Us. Finally, I can be satiated. I've played a lot of zombie content to do this video, and I am pretty confident with the results I've gotten. Now, with complete transparency, I don't think you could actually get the full effect of The Last of Us in VR. With how limited the current state of VR is, you can't really match how cinematic and character-driven The Last of Us really is. But with that being said, I do want to see more games like Half-Life Alyx and Saints and Sinners. I think those games should get married and have AAA VR zombie gaming babies. Now that would be the ultimate VR gaming experience and would make me feel very strong and handsome like Pedro Pascal from The Last of Us show. All that said, Half-Life Alyx is probably the closest we're gonna get to The Last of Us in VR for a long time, but maybe more like The Last of Us Part 2 because, you know,
women.
You must have nothing better to do. You're watching Who Knows What, you idiot.
Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it if you made it all the way to the end. Please like, comment, subscribe, all the YouTube algorithm stuff. I recently hit 500 subscribers, so thank you so much. Here's to 1,000 and then 1 billion. I have an Instagram you can follow. Here is 3 channels I'd like you to subscribe to. This one is my wonderful girlfriend who did the stills for this video and all my other videos. And stay up to date because I will be streaming on this channel more often. So yeah, that should be about it. Thank you so much for watching. Much better. Bye.
See you later. Incineration